Tonight on CTV News, another positive sign in the rebuild of the city. Better news for those worried about their houses in coastal hazard zones. And another win for those demanding safer buildings.
Broadcasting across Canterbury. From the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening, welcome to CTV News, streaming live every night at ctv.co.nz. Well, Prime Minister John Key has likened Christchurch to New Orleans, as both cities still struggle to rebuild after devastating natural disasters. But rest assured, he says our city is in full-blown regeneration status, and that could be true, starting with one of the largest hotels in the South Island. Here's Chelsea Daniels.
But actually, should probably take a moment to take a bit of credit. I think the council and hopefully the government and Sarah and all those bodies that are involved have done a lot of good things. And as I say, you can look at New Orleans and see how tough it is 10 years on. They're not going too far, and we're really making tremendous progress here.
Christchurch's newest and largest hotel opened today, with Prime Minister John Key assuring his commitment to the rebuild is still strong. The Break Free on Cashel Street is now fully open for business, a $30 million project that stands in the heart of the central city.
Having gone through the tremendous pain and anguish of the earthquakes, we're now in the phase where the city is being put back together again, arguably bigger and stronger than it was beforehand, and we need all of these facilities, from everything from convention centres through to hotels.
The 264-room hotel does its part to boost the local job market by employing 80 Cantabrians. But what does this really mean for Christchurch? Mayor Leanne Dowzell used the opening as a symbol of revival for the city.
Repairing what was already here and turning it into this magnificent place, quirky and funky, it just sits with the city in transition, and it's helping to lead the way. So thank you very much. I know that there are going to be many more openings like this as our city continues on its path from recovery to regeneration.
And Key says the government's promise to Christchurch is still forefront.
The government's putting in $16.5 billion. We're now into the regenerate phase, and I think that's going to pay real dividends. As somebody who regularly visits here, I can see the progress that's being made, but I also understand their frustrations, and we are genuinely doing everything we can. But a lot of Cantabrians I meet do feel the momentum that's happening. They do feel a lot more confident. Yes, there are some unresolved issues, but those, as every day goes past, reduce and are resolved.
Last month, Associate Tourism Minister Paula Bennett visited Christchurch, and she says the tourism industry in our city is on the up and up.
We're certainly seeing a year-on-year increase, and this year in particular has been really pleasing to see the last 12 months and sort of nearly 7% increase in the number of visitors.
And accommodation in Christchurch was one of her concerns.
Accommodation is kind of constant, and I must say it's throughout New Zealand, but certainly here in Canterbury with your own set of issues around what got knocked down and what you rebuild and at what speed to make sure that you have beds for those that need them.
The hotel includes pod-style rooms as well as high-quality traditional rooms on the top floor executive level. Auckland-based Russell Property Group purchased the property in January last year, and Christchurch-based Dowman Architecture undertook the design. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
The Earthquake Recovery Minister has directed a recovery plan be prepared for the Waimakiriri District red zones. Jerry Brownlee has asked the Waimak Council to prepare a draft that will identify the intended long-term use of the land. He says initial ideas from the public are that people want green open spaces to enjoy, particularly for recreation and community purposes. Minister Brownlee expects the draft recovery plan to be with him by June next year. Well, some good news for those fighting the coastal hazards report. Time appears to be on their side, with submissions regarding this hazards report being extended by about 6 weeks. But the Christchurch Coastal Residents United group still wants more time. Here's Gerard McCulloch.
More time for concerned residents.
We thank the council for the effort they've put into getting that done, and it's but part one of the battle that we've commenced and will continue to fight.
The Christchurch City Council has extended the submission date for affected property owners who are listed as being threatened by coastal hazards in the future. The controversial report has been through leaps and bounds, with the public wanting more time to access their property values if the sea level was to rise in the next 50 to 100 years, and put their submission forth to Council. Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell sent an email to Earthquake Recovery Minister Jerry Brownlee and Environment Minister Nick Smith, asking for a request to extend the submission period for the remaining part of the Natural Hazards Report, saying the Coastal Hazards Report has alarmed residents to get in their submissions in the short time frame, originally planned for tomorrow.
It allows us to get out to more people and make them aware of this process, but it doesn't change the fact that our substantive hearings have to be in for the February hearings.
But although the 6 weeks will allow for residents all over the city to put their thoughts forward, the main push is to get the whole report to halt completely.
We're still pushing to have this whole process thrown out of the earthquake legislation and started again. This is quite a major issue that needs to be dealt with between council and government, and that probably wasn't time to have it put out or thrown out by Friday. So I guess this is a bit of a pause in the process to allow us to continue our discussions on that matter.
He says the extension of the submission period shows the concern around the third stage of the report, where 18,000 properties could be affected by sea levels rising.
Clearly they weren't aware of how big an issue this would be, and that surprises me when you're taking property rights away from 40,000 people. I mean, we've been to war for less, and I think council have now starting to see the backlash. There's a lot of people come out of the woodwork, including Sir Tiffany O'Regan, telling council what a terrible process this is.
They should move it to central government. They should get a national plan worked out or strategy worked out which is rational. They should apply a far more rigorous body of science rather than this politicised science, which is also almost the opposite of science, to it, and then apply the implications of that.
The group is now focusing on getting more awareness out to residents.
Well, we'll obviously look at possibly more meetings, more public meetings to make more people aware, to get more people to make submissions, but we'll be using that time as we are, to this minute, to continue to consult with the PM and the government and the council to actually get what we want.
The Mayor wasn't available for further comment today, but for now affected residents will have until October 16th to make their voices heard. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Dangerous buildings with unreinforced masonry and facades will need to be assessed and fixed within a short time frame. The government is proposing major changes to earthquake-prone buildings to minimise future deaths from shakes.
A change to the Earthquake-Prone Buildings Amendment Bill will see around 2,000 buildings throughout the country having unreinforced masonry to have their buildings assessed in the next 2.5 years and be fixed up in another 5 years. That's half the time of the original bill. Pressure from an earthquake survivor here in Christchurch saw the government halve the time frame on the country's most dangerous buildings and those that would be earthquake-prone in the next shake. Building and Housing Minister Nick Smith says laws need to change to minimise future fatalities from falling masonry and facades, using the Canterbury February 2011 quake as a lesson to all throughout New Zealand. Christchurch falls into the high-risk zone for earthquake strengthening, meaning the upgrade requirements would be halved from 15 to 7.5 years. That will be the same, halved, for medium and low-risk areas. The government is aiming to have the new piece of legislation passed in the House by the end of this year.
Still to come here on CTV News, a very special day for many in this city tomorrow. Welcome back to CTV News, live streaming at ctv.co.nz. Well, tomorrow marks 5 years. 5 years, can you believe that, since Canterbury's first big earthquake. The 7.1 quake struck at 4:35 in the morning, but without a single loss of life. So there are several events marking this occasion, starting with the dawn service at New Brighton. Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell has invited Cantabrians to join her for a special sunrise ceremony, gathering on the beach outside the library from just after 6 a.m. It's also the quake that changed the town of Kaiapoi, so there will be a couple of events there from 3:30 at the Recreation Reserve and from 5:30 at the local park. And of course, Wainoni and Avonside Community Services Trust is hosting a fun event, and that will kick off at 10 a.m. Everyone is welcome. So how will the Prime Minister be marking tomorrow?
Well, I'm not here tomorrow, and I guess the point I'd make about that is that some years ago, I think it was the Christchurch Council, I'd have to absolutely check, but asked me not to attend, and it was nothing to do with my presence. It was just that they felt that if every year the Prime Minister of the day came to Christchurch, that people would focus, obviously it's an important time to reflect on what's taken place and the enormity of the loss, but they wanted to make it more local, and so I was more than happy with that and understood it. So it's not that I'm not coming for any reason, it's just that that's been the wishes of the people of Christchurch as best I understand it.
Freedom campers, love them or hate them, but if anybody is interested in the freedom camping bylaw, they're invited to public meetings. The proposed bylaw details areas where freedom camping would be prohibited or at least restricted and available for limited periods of time as well, and what areas and where allowed they will be able to go. Now, drop-in sessions have already been held on Banks Peninsula and have proven to be very popular. They'll be held again at the Peterborough Library this Saturday from 12:30 and the following Saturday at the Beach Cafeteria, New Brighton from 9:30 a.m. Well, they say when one door closes, another one opens, but that's just not the case for many Canterburyans who have been made redundant this week after plans were announced to close the New Zealand Post call centre in Christchurch. Chelsea Daniels with the latest.
New Zealand Post is relocating its main call centre from Christchurch to Auckland, with many jobs going with it.
The announcement was made yesterday to close the call centre. We're extremely disappointed with the approach taken by the local management and the lack of consultation or the lack of true consultation around finding any solutions to keeping full-time meaningful employment in Christchurch.
Gallagher says employees are confused as to why they're being cut loose after the company saw a $142 million profit last financial year.
It's been made quite clear to them yesterday and reconfirmed that this is a decision based on cost, and the Post are going to be transferring some jobs to Auckland. But for a lot of these people, that's not a viable alternative.
A number of Cantabrians will be affected by the change, and Gallagher would have wanted to see more compromise in the decision.
I've had a number quoted to me of around about 77 jobs will be lost as a result of the closure.
However, from a statement from New Zealand Post, this isn't so much the case. They assure this wasn't a decision that was made lightly, but as a part of our 5-year strategy. New Zealand Post has been really heartened by the contact it's had from other employees in Canterbury looking to hire contact centre staff. The company has confirmed that its new contact centre will be based in Auckland. However, 45 new jobs will be created in Auckland, 69 will go to Christchurch, with a total net loss of 27 jobs. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
A 40-year-old man has been charged following a fatal crash at the Hakataramea Valley Road in South Canterbury early in May. He's been charged with 4 counts of excess breath alcohol causing injury and 1 count of excess alcohol causing death. The man will appear in the Timaru District Court on the 10th of September. Well, coming up here on CTV News, your business roundup and the all-important weather forecast. Welcome back to CTV News, and now here's CTV business reporter Warren Head from headliner.co.nz with the latest in local business news.
Hi, I'm Warren Head for headliner.co.nz. Well, when the week began, we were very worried about where all our markets were going to go, and it was absolute turmoil. We've seen movements on some of the major markets around the world we haven't seen in many years. We've become accustomed to hearing news like 200 points off the Dow Jones and all the rest of it. Now, okay, does this hurt us? It doesn't actually. It's at a distance from us, but it does come through in other ways. Now, one of the things which was occurring, of course, is that all the commodity currencies got knocked a little bit, including ours, and it went pretty jolly low until we had that dairy auction midweek when the 10% lift there on that particular night, which added up to 23% gain on the dairy auctions over the last 2, helped push the currency up a little bit. Now, what difference does that make to you watching me here tonight? It simply means that the currency came up a little bit and took the heat out of the petrol pump price. You may have noticed that petrol has risen about 4 cents a litre. The first two off the mark were Z Energy and BP. Z's a big boy these days, so it's quite dominant in terms of the market throughput, and it made a difference in terms of your household budget. So that's how you can link a stock market movement to a dairy price to the petrol pump in one hit. And the other thing that came through, talking about vehicles, is we've got more of them coming into the country. 10% came in August, more than the same period a year ago. And guess what was the biggest seller? Well, in Christchurch, I don't have to tell you what's hot here. It's the Ford Ranger. It's the top model overall, again, for the month of August. 735 of them sold across the country. And the next thing there is the Toyota Hilux. And sales of sports utility vehicles also pretty dominant with a 34% market share. So in town, it's utes, isn't it? Utes everywhere. In terms of your house value is also up on the previous year in terms of its value. The average for August, average values across the country now puts Waimakariri at 417,000, Christchurch at 476,000, Ashburton at 327,000, and Selwyn, 516,000 out there. Timaru, $307,000. The good news, if you're looking to buy, is that values have calmed down. They rose only 3% in the past year and just 0.4% in the past 3 months. If you're in Auckland, of course, it's just a disaster if you want to buy there. It's the hottest housing market in the country, and values up there are up 20% in a year, faster than any time in a decade. Now, on the building front, in terms of downtown, the big development there is that if you have a parapet, you're going to have to do something about it a lot faster than you anticipated. The Crown has halved the time frame to make the country's most earthquake-prone buildings safer after pressure from a Christchurch earthquake survivor. And it simply means that now the buildings need to be assessed within 2.5 years and fixed within 7.5 years. And when you think how many years have already elapsed since the earthquakes, that 7.5 will go around quite fast. So if you're a company owner, I wouldn't muck around. You could get caught out finding that that's where all the repair guys are going, and it's good work for the building industry because they're going to get a lot more work out of it, aren't they? In terms of the stock market, just to close there, the only development is no development in terms of the price that Briscoe are offering for the Kathmandu shares, about $1.80. And they said that package is intact. They're not going to lift it, and that bid will close in about 2 weeks' time. And just to note, in shutting, that trades last month were up 35%. The daily value was up 127% to about 287 million. A lot of money flowing through our stock market right now. Not all of it from home, but a lot of it from overseas. And just finally, good news for everybody down in Ashburton. You're getting another new supermarket. There's going to be a second countdown in town, and the word is that the one you've already got will also continue to trade. I'm Warren Head for headliner.co.nz.
All right, to other news now. She's in pole position and taking her performance to the other side of the world. A local pole dancer. No, it's not Jared McCulloch. Will be travelling across Europe as part of one of the world's biggest festivals, ending up in Oktoberfest in Germany. And as Jared McCulloch reports, it's harder than it looks.
It's a style of performance that's got this 23-year-old a ticket to Europe, but it hasn't been easy.
I've saved all this money and I've sold almost all of my worldly belongings just to go, because it's like the dream of a lifetime to be in a circus.
And it all started with a conversation with a friend.
I was 18 and she said that she did pole classes, and I remember thinking I would always love to try that. That would be so much fun.
Tony has been performing this ever-growing sport for the past 6 years and has been teaching her moves to others for just over a year.
I do a range of different things to train to get where I am, but yeah, I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot of different things with these guys who have a lot of different talents different to me. So yeah, it'll be really awesome.
And it's taken her to all different parts of the world as well.
I lived in America for a while, which was a really exciting experience, but I was a lot younger and of course with my parents, so I sort of had the guidance of them to look after me and take me everywhere I need to go, but now I'm doing it all on my own and I won't have that security there all the time. So yeah, it's a pretty big step, but I think I can do it.
Then she got a message asking her about the exciting news.
I've performed with Pearl a few times. She does a lot of pole as well, knowing that she was going to do this rolling circus. And she messaged me on Facebook and almost was joking, would you like to come to Europe in the next 2 weeks to come with us?
So she got to work to take the trip of a lifetime. She'll head to Amsterdam next week to meet all the other performers in the tour.
I fly out from Christchurch to Singapore and then from Singapore to Amsterdam, and that's where I'll meet everyone and get to know everyone, and yeah, it's all go from there. So really exciting.
The Stokes Travelling Circus has been running for a number of years, an event that makes its way through parts of Europe.
I thought, I don't know, can I afford it? Like, it's such short notice, but then I thought, no, I have to. Like, no one's ever going to ask me that again, so I need to do it. There's things that I can say now that I've never been able to say. Like, I can say that my name is international. I'm going to Europe, and I can say that I've performed with some of the best and the biggest, and I can say that I performed at Oktoberfest, which is just some things that I don't think anyone else is ever going to be able to do in their lives. And so, yeah, it's just having that experience behind me and maybe one day having my name in lights.
It's quite a skill, and it's harder than it looks. Let's just leave it to the pros. She jets off on Monday for her 5-week adventure. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
Time now for the region's weather with Mercy.
Kia ora Canterbury. Well, today we saw sweeping rain and cloudy skies this morning. Fine spells this afternoon with those southerly winds turning northerly. Today's highs 10 degrees for Timaru and 9 for Geraldine, Temuka and Waimate. Central Canterbury, 10 degrees here for almost everyone. That was 10 degrees for Christchurch, Akaroa, Leeston, Ashburton and Darfield. Methven, you bucked the trend on 8 degrees today. Heading further north, 9 degrees for Kaikoura, Cheviot, Rangiora, Colvin and Oxford, 10 degrees there for Rangiora and Amberley, and 8 degrees for Johanna Springs. And over to the Alpine region, 6 degrees for Mount Cook and Lake Tekapo today. Tomorrow's weather for the major centres, Timaru, mostly fine skies for you, but there could be a few showers around the lunchtime mark, 12 degrees for your high and 2 for your morning start. Ashburton again could be a little bit soggy at about noon for you. Those showers should clear though in the evening and later on, and 12 degrees for your high also. Christchurch, 2 degrees for your morning start as well, with those southerly winds coming through, bring a little bit of rain with them. And over to Kaikoura, you're a little bit warmer in Kaikoura here, 13 degrees for your high and 5 for your morning start. The rest of the Canterbury region also might see a little bit of rain, particularly around the lunchtime mark, 12 degrees there for Temuka and Geraldine, and southwesterlies for everyone here, South Canterbury. Central Canterbury, you're not escaping those southwesterly winds either. We're also seeing a little bit of rain for you guys, and 13 degrees for the high for Akaroa and Leeston. Heading further north, showers here for most. However, Hanna Springs, you could be mostly dry for your Friday. Southwesterly winds for you though, and southerlies for everyone else. And over to the Alpine region, 7 degrees there for Arthur's Pass, and snow flurries for you as well. Get your slippers handy for tomorrow evening. Saturday, your weekend, the Saturday morning could be looking pretty good with sunny skies and northerly winds. However, we are seeing that turn southerly in the evening with hail and potential snow to 300 metres. Sunday morning is looking snowy to low level for some places. Southerly winds there really cooling down the temperatures, looking more like winter and not spring on Sunday. Saturday for the rest of the Canterbury region, those northerly winds, as I said before, are expected to change southerly in the evening, bringing hail and potential snow with them. Sunday morning could be a bit of a cold one. Maybe sleep in and snuggle in bed on Sunday morning if you can. Southwesterly winds there and snow to low levels. We're expecting that to be particularly bad for coastal areas, but high country areas should remain dry and fine. So tomorrow we are expecting a little bit of rain tomorrow around lunchtime, and the weekend is looking cold, but we'll keep you updated on that one in the next couple of days. And that's your weather for Thursday.
Looking forward to snuggling in, Mercy. And that is CTV News for Thursday. Have a good evening.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.